So hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 29th of October and we are going to deal with two very important topics. The first topic is Apar ID. Apar ID is going to be a unique ID which is going to be issued to whom? To the students of the country. Students having access to formal education as well as informal education. Means all the academic credentials, all the information about a particular student will be here on this Apar ID portal. The student need not carry his documents physically anywhere if he has to apply in a different school or in a college. He just has to give his Apar ID and from there the institutions will be able to access all his academic information, his academic background will be reflected over there. Isn't it good? Isn't it effective? Yes, it is going to be effective. And it is also going to take out or I would say weed out those kind of problems like people used to create fake certificates and all. It would be difficult for creating fake certificates because your entire journey is there on the portal. So if you have a fake certificate, the authority who's issuing you the fake certificate has to upload that on this Apar ID portal. And it will definitely bring in more transparency. So this is going to be very much beneficial. Where was it envisaged? It was envisaged in the National Education Policy of 2020. So we'll look into the details, what is the significance of Apar ID, and there is a challenge also in Apar ID. That challenge is that for Apar ID you have to share your Aadhaar details. The students as well as their parents, they are concerned a bit about sharing this private information, this personal information. Government is giving them confidence that this is not going to be leaked anywhere except for assessing various, I would say, indexes and parameters. One such index is UDC Plus. This is released by Ministry of Education every year, which tells us about the gross enrollment ratio levels, the dropout levels, the number of schools which are there in the country. All these kind of data is there under this particular survey. So government is saying for these kind of surveys, we are going to use the personal information of the people, for the students, else we are not going to leak it anywhere else. But this challenge is there presently. So multiple state governments nowadays have been told to collect data of those students over there in those respective states, studying in the government schools, studying in private schools, and then Apar ID for every particular student will be made. So this is, I would say, an ongoing process. It is not there implemented fully, but yes, it is ongoing over there. Let's see what are its details. Apar ID, basically the full form is Automated Permanent Academic Account Registry. It is a step taken by the Government of India to give a unique ID to every student in the country. And by this ID, definitely transparency will be there. At what level transparency will be there? All the academic credentials of that particular student will be available to the authorities by just knowing the Apar ID of that particular student. Right from the very beginning, right from class nursery till class 12th and college also. What he has done, what has been his score all across, I would say, his schooling life or his college life. The students also don't need to carry their academic certificates from one place to the other place. One more thing the government is wanting is to link this Apar ID with DigiLocker. DigiLocker is basically that kind of application which is developed again by the Government of India. That you can store your documents over there, and whenever anyone asks those documents, if you've stored them on DigiLocker, you can show it to them, and those documents have legality attached to them. Means nobody can refuse those documents. So this is Basically, what the government is planning, integrating Apar ID with DigiLocker also. This is the beauty of digital public infrastructure, making lives easy. And definitely, this is going to make lives easy. But there are challenges also. Challenges like parents as well as students, they are apprehensive about sharing their personal data like Aadhaar details with the government, with this fear of their personal details getting misused. However, the government is giving them confidence that this is not going to be misused. It will only be used for, I would say, analyzing certain kind of indexes or surveys which the government only rolls out. So, this is what this Apar ID is about. So, let us get into the details of this. Apar, which stands for Automated Permanent Academic Account Registry, is envisioned as special ID system for all students in India, starting from childhood. Means from wherever that child is starting his or her education, from then onwards, this ID will be generated for that child. It is also being termed as One Nation, One Student ID, which is definitely going to bring in transparency. Roots of this particular, I would say, idea is there in the new education policy, which was rolled out in the year 2020. And it was also talking about integrating technology in the education domain. And this is one such example how technology can be integrated in the educational domain. Now, purpose of Apar ID. What is the purpose of Apar ID? You need to understand this. Apar is a special ID system for all students in India. By now we know this. Starting from childhood, under the initiative, each student would get a lifelong Apar ID. An ID, Apar ID given to a student will remain with that student forever. Just like our Aadhaar number. Making it easy for the learners, means the students, the schools and governments to track academic progress from pre-primary education to higher education. So if you want to track, the progress of any child, from where that person has done his or her schooling from where that person has done his or her graduation from, everything, every record will be there on that Apar ID, including your certificates will be uploaded over there, because they're talking about linking this Apar ID with the DigiLocker. Apar ID would also serve as gateway to DigiLocker, a digital system where students can store their important documents and achievements such as exam results, report cards digitally, making it easier to access and use them in the future for, say, pursuing higher education or finding a job, because you have to upload your certificates and all for all these purposes. So all your certificates will be handy with you in your smartphone or on your laptop when you enter that Apar ID. All this is, classic example of digital public infrastructure. Digital public infrastructure, one of the main objectives of digital public infrastructure is ease of living. To promote ease of living. And isn't it promoting ease of living? Definitely it is. So you need to understand things and connect them with broader topics also. This way you have to think. Then next purpose is to make education hassle-free and reduce the need for students to carry physical documents from one place to the other place. I myself, my personal experience that I have misplaced one of my educational documents. I had to take them from one place to the other place, and during that it happened. And when I had to take that back or reissue that particular document, it took many days for that document to be reissued. And that was a lot of, I would say, hassle for me. And all these things will actually remove these kind of hassles. Apar also aims to reduce fraud and duplicate educational certificates by providing a single trusted reference for educational institutions. Many of the people, they go for, taking these kind of fake certificates or fake, I would say, degrees and all. That all will be, undertaken, or I would say checked over here in Apar ID portal. So definitely these kind of activities will also reduce. The vision is to create a positive change, allowing state governments to track literacy rates, dropout rates, and more, helping them make improvements. This is basically said by Mr. Anil Sahasrabudhe. He is the chairman of National Educational Technology Forum. Explained it's about giving states the tools to enhance their performance. Now, how does the government envision Apar ID to work? How is the government thinking about it? That how will it work for us? Now, government thinks that every individual will have Apar ID. Obviously, that person will be having, every student, and this Apar ID will be linked to the academic bank credit, ABC they are calling it. ABC is what? It is a digital storehouse that contains information of the credits earned by the students throughout their learning journey. Now, Apar ID is an ID, but by entering that ID, we enter this ABC, that is academic bank credit of that individual. From there, we'll have access to everything, the academic background of that person. So that will be on ABC, that is academic bank credit. With the Apar ID, students would be able to store all their certificates and credits, whether they come from formal education or informal learning. So again, another important thing over here is informal education also. If you are getting any certificates for it, let's suppose you've learned carpentry, or you've learned, I would say, the work of ironsmith as a hobby or as a vocational skill, that will also be there in that Apar ID or that academic bank credit, which you will on which you will store all your credits, your mark sheets you've passed in every class. All those will be uploaded over there in this. When a student completes a course or achieves something, it's digitally certified and secured, stored in her accounts by authorized institutions. The authorized institutions only will be uploading that information on the portal, that is Apar ID portal. They may not be issuing you certificates, or I would say report cards, which were we all got during our school days, that this is the report card, this came, you got these much marks in this subjects. Now the teachers will say your result has been declared and it has been uploaded on the Apar ID portal. You can go and check. So you'll check, there you'll find your results. So digital India, mera desh badal raha hai, it is like this. So it is going to happen. If the student changes schools, whether within the state or to another state, all her data in the ABC gets transferred to her new school just by sharing the Apar ID. This is also very good. Means you had to take transfer certificate, you had to take your character certificate. Now you don't have to take anything. You are transferring from one school to the other school. You just inform your previous school that I am transferring. They'll digitally upload all those certificates, and your next school, you go and you give your Apar ID. They'll see, acha, you have your academic record throughout the years is this. They'll not only have access to your last year's academic record, but the entire academic record they'll have access to. Your I would say achievements, your credentials, everything they'll have. And then, all your ABC means all your credentials will be transferred to the new school by sharing just your Apar ID in the ABC, that is academic bank credit. How is the single ID created? This is, I would say, interesting, and this is from here only the challenge is being generated. To sign up for Apar, students will have to provide basic information such as name, age, date of birth, gender, and a photograph. This information will be verified using the Aadhaar number. Now, Aadhaar number sharing is becoming a challenge. Students will need to sign a consent form, and they can choose. This is also a provision. They can choose to either accept or decline sharing their Aadhaar number and demographic information with the Ministry of Education for creating Apar ID. They can refuse. For minors, parents will have to sign the consent form allowing the ministry to use the student's Aadhaar number for authentication with UIDAI. Registration for creating Apar ID is voluntary, not mandatory right now. So this is also one thing which you need to know. Aadhaar is also not, I would say, mandatory. ठीक है. So likewise Apar ID is voluntary, but most of us we have Aadhaar because Aadhaar is being used in multiple places. Okay. So slowly and gradually, when the, I would say, demand for this kind of Apar ID will increase because it has multiple advantages, this may be adopted by many students, and still then also it will not be compulsory, it will be voluntary. Now the concerns, the parents and students have concerns about sharing their Aadhaar details because they worry that their personal information could be leaked to outside parties. This is one such concern. And this is a very valid concern because leakage of this personal data has created a lot of problems in the past. And personal data protection bill also has been, passed by the government, and in which there's this data fiduciary who has the responsibility of, managing the information. In this case, government is the data fiduciary, in which the government will take responsibility of not leaking the data. But the government says that the information shared by the students will be kept confidential and will not be shared with any third party, except for entities engaged in educational activities such as Unified District Information System for Education Plus or UDC Plus database, which is our next topic. We'll see what UDC Plus is. Scholarships, maintenance, academics records, educational institutions, and recruitment agencies. For them, we can share your details. We can share your details with these many, I would say, entities. But else, it will not be shared by anyone else. But yes, concern is a concern which is still there. Overall, if I talk about this Apar ID, it is going to actually make lives a bit easy. Obviously, the challenges or the concerns, they need to be addressed. Without addressing these concerns, definitely this is not going to be, I would say, a success. But yes, students all across the country should be opting for this more and more in the times to come. The loopholes government obviously needs to fulfill or plug. Now next is UDC Plus, Unified District Information System for Education Plus. This UDC Plus was launched in the year 2018-19. Actually, when it was launched, it was UDC. But last year, it was made UDC Plus because the data which was being collected for releasing this particular index was collected digitally or electronically. That is why this plus was added. What kind of data they collect? They collect data for gross enrollment ratios, dropout rates, how many students are males, how many students are females, what is the gross enrollment ratio specifically for the girls all across the country, how are schools performing, how many schools are there, how many schools are newly have opened, how many schools have closed down. These kind of basic data are there in this particular index. This is one of the most reliable indexes released by the Government of India in the domain of education, particularly school education and not college education. It is only talking about, school education. So let us see about UDC Plus. The UDC Plus system of online data collection from the schools was developed by Department of School Education and Literacy in 2018 and 19. To overcome the issues related to erstwhile practice of manual data filling in paper format. In UDC Plus 2021-22, additional data on important indicators, digital library, peer learning, hotspot identification, number of books available in school library, etc. have been collected for the first time to align with the National Education Policy 2020. Digital library basically is a library where e-books are available. Peer learning means how much, interactive learning is there, peer-to-peer learning is there. This we assess by multiple tools like, we take into account these kind of tools which are group studies and all. Hotspot identification. Hotspots are those areas where the student's performance is generally low. Those are kind of considered as hard spots. Okay. So we need to take into account those. Number of books available in the school library, how many books are available in the school library, etc. have been collected for the first time to align with National Education Policy 2020 initiatives. The findings of 2022 UDC Plus. This year it has not been released yet. It generally gets released in the month of November. So in the next month it is going to be released. So we'll be covering the findings of that next month. According to the report, gross enrollment ratio has improved at primary, upper primary and higher secondary levels of the school education in 2021-22 as compared to last year, that is 2020-21. In 21-22, the pupil-teacher ratio. Pupil is basically the students and teacher. How many students one teacher is teaching through, that is the pupil-teacher ratio. It stood at 26 for primary, 19 for upper primary, 18 for secondary and 27 for higher secondary, showing an improvement since 2018-19. In 2021-22, over 12.29 crore girls are enrolled in primary to higher secondary, showing an increase of 8.19 lakh as compared to the enrollment of girls in 2020-21. This is also a good indicator because see, literacy levels among the females, they have never been above males in any of the censuses, and these kind of figures, when they come out about girls education, this actually brings a lot of, I would say, relief that hopefully in the next upcoming census we'll definitely see that gap between the male literacy and female literacy to come down, and we would be definitely happy if the female literacy goes above the male literacy, at least remain at par. More than 20,000 schools were closed across the country during 2020-21, while the number of teachers also declined by 1.95% in comparison to the previous year. Obviously, this was the COVID impact. It pointed out that only 44.85% of schools had computer facilities, while nearly 34% had internet connection. This has to improve. This will definitely bring in some positive change at the digital literacy level and digital penetration level. While only 27% schools have special toilets for children with special needs, more than 49% of them have ramps with handrails. So children with special needs are basically persons with disabilities, PWDs, or specially abled Divyangs, what we call them. So these people definitely need to be accommodated in the education sphere or in the education net. Then only by 2047 we'll be able to say that we have become a Viksit Bharat or a developed country. Education definitely needs to play a major role. One such area where we are lacking is the gross enrollment ratio in the higher education, which is only around 27-28%. Means out of 100 students who get enrolled in the primary level, only 27% of them go for higher education like graduation. More than half, they drop out. The National Education Policy only says that by 2035, we have to increase the gross enrollment ratio of the students in the higher education sector to 50%. That is actually the requirement because that is the skilled labor which we are going to get, and with the participation of skilled labor in economy, we are going to be there as a developed country by 2047. So education is going to play a very vital role. Apar ID, UDC Plus findings and all, they have to definitely get better. I will cover one video on new education, or that's National Education Policy of 2020, in which we'll be discussing all the details, shortcomings of that policy and all. Everything I'll be discussing on that. Don't worry. I'll just create that video shortly in a day or two. So this is all for today. You guys very well know what to do. Keep studying, keep reading, keep writing, and most importantly, keep revising. Namaste. Jai Hind.